The fleeing tide of ancient giants, engulfed by the force of the void, was swept into the boundless nothingness. So it was for the ordinary ancient giants, and the same for those at the Giant King realm. Grief-stricken roars, mournful wails, and desperate cries resounded across the entire land and sky. Within the domain mirror, the purple-crimson princess collapsed on her knees, pounding the mirror's surface with her delicate, slender hands with all her might. She struck until her hands were bruised and bloodied, deep red blood slowly trickling down the invisible cracks on the mirror's surface. She let out a desperate, piercing shriek that reached the pinnacle of anguish. No. She lifted her face, golden teardrops uncontrollably rolling down from her eyes. The purple-crimson princess could not fathom, no matter how hard she tried, why things had turned out this way. This had clearly been nothing more than a hunt for the ancient giants, yet in the end, it ended in utter annihilation. All those who had previously descended onto the Central Plains, except for the handful of surviving giant kings, perished here. In 10,000 years, no battle had ever been so devastating. At that moment, she saw Fang Chen. Watching Fang Chen stand with his hands behind his back, amid that shattered world, silently overlooking as the tide of ancient giants was slowly torn apart and devoured by the void. A boundless fury surged straight to her head. The purple-crimson princess clenched her mangled fists and roared, "Fang Chen, are you happy now? Your Central Plains has won." Fang Chen gazed up at the sky canopy, only to shake his head slightly. He took a deep breath and murmured to himself, "How could I possibly be happy? My former master, Elder Yunyang, is dead. That senior, Elder Ninkan, who always wore a stern expression, is also dead. But he sat with Tianting, both foe and friend, has died. Wilderness Elder Wanking, to whom I owe a debt of gratitude, has also died. And now, even the great venerate Star Abyss, whom I respected the most, is about to die." Fang Chen spoke slowly, his voice low and heavy with sorrow. "Tell me, how could I possibly be happy?" As his words fell, he abruptly lowered his head, his red, rimmed eyes filled with an undiminished, icy killing intent. "Do you remember what I said before the great battle?" The purple-crimson princess fixed her deathly stare on Fang Chen, her mind involuntarily recalling his words. Instantly, her entire body jolted violently, her pupils shrinking to pinpoints. Fang Chen snatched the domain mirror and pressed it close to his face, allowing the purple-crimson princess to clearly see the bone. Chilling coldness deep within his eyes. "It seems you remember. I once said that one day I would counterattack the heavenly realm and let you ancient giants personally experience the taste of being hunted. Those who kill shall be killed. When you treated the living beings of my Central Plains as cattle and sheep back then, you should have been prepared that one day you too would have to kneel as cattle and sheep." The purple-crimson princess's body trembled violently. Back then, when she heard Fang Chen say those words, only ridicule had filled her heart. Because at that time, it seemed the Central Plains had but a flicker of hope to survive this catastrophe. Yet now, the Central Plains had won while the heavenly realm suffered a crushing defeat. Now she could no longer muster a single laugh. The man before her. Every word he had spoken was being fulfilled, step by step. A counterattack on the heavenly realm, hunting ancient giants. This oath would ultimately come true. The purple-crimson princess shook her head desperately, shouting in a hoarse voice, "No, you will not succeed. Our giant kings are still here. Whoever from your Central Plains comes to the heavenly realm will be seeking their death." Fang Chen's eyes were deep as an abyss. He did not argue, but raised a hand to point at the towering pillar of light above. "Then do you know what this can be exchanged for?" The purple-crimson princess gritted her teeth, the Armistice Stele, "but it can only exempt you from the great war of the next millennium. It cannot help you contend against the giant kings at all." Fang Chen smiled, a chilling relief in his expression. "Does my Central Plains still need an Armistice Stele? Should we wait and endure through the next millennium, only for you to invade again? The calamity of the Central Plains should end with our generation." He withdrew his smile and said icily, "I will sell this Armistice Stele to worlds that also need it. The sole condition of exchange is that all sages must lend their aid to my Central Plains. I swear I will never relent until the heavenly realm is obliterated." The purple-crimson princess's pupils instantly contracted to needle points. Clever as she was, she assessed almost instantly how feasible this plan was. In this world, there are too many realms in need of an Armistice Stele. Even at the cost of sacrificing a few sages, they would not hesitate to persuade those sages to come and assist in annihilating the southern heavenly realm. No world would refuse such a trade. No, don't. The purple crimson princess trembled all over, her tone no longer able to maintain its harshness, reduced to desperate pleading. Our heavenly realm now only has the old, the weak, the women, and the children. Fang Chen, please spare them. I beg you. Fang Chen looked at her expressionlessly, without a shred of pity. The old, the weak, women, and children. When you were powerful, you viewed my central plane's living beings as cattle and sheep. Now that you are weak, you appeal for sympathy by invoking the old, the weak, women, and children. His voice was utterly flat, as if stating a cold fact. In my eyes, there are only two kinds of giants. One kind is alive, the other is dead. The purple crimson princess was utterly frantic. Casting aside all dignity, she cried out urgently, Fang Chen, on behalf of all giants, I apologize to your central planes. I beg you, in the name of heaven's virtue of cherishing life, raise your hand in mercy and spare them. Fang Chen could not help but let out a scoff. He slowly shook his head. Such childish words spoken in desperation, do not utter them again. These words do not befit your intelligence. As his words fell, he directly shut off the sound channel of the domain mirror. No matter how frantically the purple crimson princess screamed within, he remained completely unmoved. He simply let her, silently and despairingly, watch her kin, one by one, all plunge into that boundless void. In the sky, canopy. The central tribe king beheld this scene, his heart filled with grief and fury. Fang Chen, his eyes nearly burst from rage, the hatred in his chest threatening to explode. He wished nothing more than to swoop down and tear Fang Chen to shreds. If not for Fang Chen's obstruction, the Lord of Tianyi City would have succeeded long ago. Watching as the heavenly realm's last nascent soul elites, like dumplings dropping into a pot, tumbled into the void. His heart felt like being cut by a blade. He flashed forward, ready to dive into the void, hoping to save even one more. However, the Grand Libationer firmly blocked his path, speaking heavily. I urged you to retreat earlier, but you insisted on staking everything. Now that it has come to this, regret is far too late. Hold them back until every falling ancient giant is annihilated. The sages, already weary and weakened, could only muster their spirits upon hearing this, gritting their teeth and doing their utmost to obstruct the maddened giant kings and the sinners of the central plains before them. Not long after, a tremendous, rumbling roar suddenly erupted. The Hunyuan province, already fallen into the void, could no longer withstand the tearing force and shattered into countless fragments. Except for the Wenhai Academy, which barely remained intact under the protection of its formation, the rest of the vast land was reduced to ruins with no trace of living beings. And the great venerate Star Abyss, who had been struggling to uphold this entire wish, had his noble aura completely dissipated and gone. Along with nearly all his life force, it was utterly exhausted. Finally unable to maintain levitation, he was like a tattered sack, blown away by a gust of void wind. In this critical moment, several powerful auras flashed past. Several great venerates acted simultaneously, forcibly hauling back Star Abyss's broken body. Fang Chen silently put away the void fishing rod he had long prepared and looked up as Star Abyss slowly descended. No one could bear to let an old man, who had sacrificed everything for the central plains, be taken away by the void like that. Fang Chen turned around and gently gave Venerable True Words a push. The Star Abyss Great Venerable still had a faint breath of life. This was the True Word Venerable's last chance. The True Word Venerable froze for a moment, a flicker of hesitation passing over her face. But as she lifted her gaze and saw that the Star Abyss Great Venerable, having drained his life force from making the wish, now had hair completely white and a face aged to the extreme. That long, sealed coldness in her heart melted away in an instant. Finally, without any more hesitation, she flew forward and caught the Star Abyss Great Venerable in her arms. With tears in her eyes, after who knows how many years, she finally trembled and called out that long, lost word, Father. The Star Abyss Great Venerable's eyes, which had been about to close completely, suddenly, because of that call, struggled to open a crack again. Deep within those dull, lightless eyes, a trace of tender warmth surged. Summoning his last strength, he tremblingly produced a jade case. Inside the jade case lay two golden, round beads, one large and one small, quietly resting. The larger one was the merit that Fang Chen had given him. The smaller one was the merit he himself had accumulated bit by bit over many years. He looked weakly at his daughter, his voice faltering, "Boo you. Father won't see. You get married." "These two measures of merit, let them be Father's dowry for you." Hearing this, the True Word Venerable's tears gushed instantly like a bursting dam, as she cried out in agony, "Father!" The Star Abyss Great Venerable gently placed the jade case into her bosom. Then his hand dropped down, utterly devoid of strength. His eyelids slowly closed. That face, weathered by wind and frost, bore a trace of contented smile, and he still murmured to himself, the mission of the Confucian cultivators is finally accomplished. May our central plains enjoy eternal peace. As the last faint thread of his voice faded away, the Star Abyss Great Venerable closed his eyes forever. The leading figure of contemporary Confucian Tao, the Star Abyss Great Venerable, had thus fallen. Father, the true word Venerable, buried her head in his chest, and trending cries resounded throughout the entire sea of Literature Academy. She had thought she would hate this man for a lifetime. Yet when he truly died, her own heart was pierced with such unbearable pain. Fang Chen watched all this, and his heart also ached deeply. He surveyed the surroundings of the Sea of Literature Academy, thought for a moment, then quietly and unobtrusively retreated behind the crowd. Just then, there came a rumbling peal of thunder, racing from the depths of the boundless void. 9 azure dragons pulled an ancient bronze chariot, cleaving through layers of void airwaves, and appeared before everyone's eyes. It was none other than the chariot of that sage who had previously repelled the 9 Suns giant emperor with one strike, and even swept away several one-sun giant emperors. The bronze chariot came to a steady halt above the Sea of Literature Academy. The carriage curtain lifted, and a young woman in a long black dress, alluring and bewitchingly graceful, leaped down. In her hand, she tightly clutched a vial of spirit liquid, glowing with a faint green light. As soon as she landed, her gaze fell on the body of the Star Abyss Great Venerable. Her eyes instantly reddened. In the end, I came too late. She was no other than the 1,000 Charms Venerable herself. That day, after the sage repelled the 9 Suns giant empress, he had carried her and Xingxing away from the central plains. Unexpectedly, the 1,000 Charms Venerable had returned once more. And moreover, she had brought from the outer realms this vial of spirit liquid brimming with potent life force. Gazing at the true word Venerable, who was weeping inconsolably, the 1,000 Charms Venerable gently crouched down, reached out, and tenderly patted her back. To hear you call him father before he left, his life was already without regret. Hearing her voice, the true word Venerable jerked her head back and glared at her resentfully with swollen, red-rimmed eyes. The 1,000 Charms Venerable took no notice of the hatred, only sighing deeply. Even now, don't you understand? I am not your father's wife. The 3 of us, myself, Xingxing, and our lord, were forced to conceal our identities and hide here in the central plains because we were being hunted by a certain extremely terrifying entity. Your father agreed to shelter us, 3 here, on the condition that our lord must intervene once. A heavy snorting sound rang out, and the 9 aged true dragons, as if sensing something, suddenly began to writhe in agitation. From within the rust-streaked bronze chariot, the old marshal clad in tattered armor spoke slowly, his voice like rusty iron scraping. Kainji, oh, we must leave. That thing has already detected our presence. Without a word, the 1,000 Charms Venerable carefully took the already cold body of the Star Abyss Great Venerable from the true word Venerable's embrace. She gently rested his lifeless head against her shoulder, her slender jade fingers trembling as she caressed his cheek, now bereft of warmth. With glistening tears in her eyes, she murmured softly, "My lord, take the air and go. I will stay here with him." His life was too bitter. He lost his wife in middle age, his most beloved daughter turned away from him, and in the end, he had to silently shoulder the fate of all Confucian cultivators alone. She gazed at that aged face with infatuation, her voice soft yet resolute. "Since I am his wife, I will accompany him on this final journey." A long sigh came from within the bronze chariot. "Ah, you truly did develop real feelings for him after all. Forget it, you have been wandering and fleeing for so many years. You are tired as well. Many thanks to the imperial consort for taking such good care of the heir all these years. We part forever." The 9 azure dragons suddenly exerted their strength, pulling the ancient war chariot as it crushed through the void and departed. At the front of the carriage, Xingxing's round body trembled violently. Large teardrops rolled down incessantly, and it frantically waved its stubby paws at the 1,000 Charms Venerable, emitting anxious whimpers, urging her to quickly follow. But the 1,000 Charms Venerable merely watched the bronze chariot gradually recede into the distance, as 2 streams of hot tears finally slid down silently. Holding the body of the Star Abyss Great Venerable, she slowly stood up and walked to the shattered boundary of the Sea of Literature Academy's defensive array. Before departing, she bent down and gently placed a luminescent jade bottle on the ground, whispering, "This is the life spirit liquid that can heal all wounds and afflictions in He world, I leave it to the central plains." The true word Venerable staggered forward, her eyes brimming with tears, reflecting boundless regret and grief. She finally shattered that hard barrier and cried out in a trembling voice, "Mother, don't come closer." The thousand charms Venerable's determination to face death willingly was like a sharp knife, fiercely cutting open the true word Venerable's heart, making her fully acknowledge his stepmother's identity in that moment. The thousand charms Venerable slowly turned around, and a trace of relieved smile bloomed on her enchanting face. Thank you. Mother also wishes you and Fang Chen a harmonious union for 100 years. Farewell. Cradling her husband in her arms, she gently leaned back, and together with the Star Abyss Great Venerable's body, like two withered leaves, they silently fell into the endless abyss of nothingness. Silence reigned around, and an indescribable sorrow and tragic heroism surged in everyone's hearts. This proud, solitary Star Abyss Great Venerable did not, in the end, depart alone. Before his death, his beloved daughter kept vigil at his side. After his passing, his devoted wife followed him in death. The true word Venerable's legs gave way, and she heavily collapsed to her knees. Her heart, in utmost agony, felt as if cruelly clenched. Even her breathing became ragged and labored. If only she could have learned the truth a little earlier, how good would that have been? Just then, an aged, withered hand, trembling alarmingly, gently rested on her shoulder. Then, a familiar yet hoarse voice, tinged with decline, sounded by her ear. "Don't be sad. They may have a new beginning." The true word Venerable whipped her head around, her pupils sharply contracting, and cried out in shock, "Fang Chen." What greeted her eyes was Fang Chen, whose face had become like that of a decrepit old man. The hand on her shoulder was dry and wrinkled, like a piece of cracked tree bark, and his entire body exuded the decaying aura of someone who had overdrawn his life force to the limit. This appearance was exactly the same as the Star Abyss Great Venerable's just before his death. She instantly understood something, her beautiful face turning deathly pale, and she said in horror, You made a wish." Fang Chen nodded with difficulty, his voice hoarse as if sandpapered. "I wish that the Star Abyss Great Venerable, may his soul never perish. But I do not know whether this wish has taken effect." As he spoke, his frail body swayed a few times, as if about to collapse at any moment. He lowered his head to glance at his own wrinkled hands, then the corners of his mouth actually tugged into a faint smile. "It seems the wish has been activated, then it should have succeeded." The true words Venerable's mind instantly went blank, as if a thunderclap had exploded. Fang Chen saw her deep in grief, and actually went so far as to stake everything, sacrificing his own origin source, to make that grand wish to preserve the soul of her father. An indescribable, scorching emotion flooded her heart like a dam bursting, instantly filling every corner. That feeling was warm, steady, just like when her mother was still alive and her father was by her side, full of security and reliance. Indeed, it was the feeling of family. Fang Chen, the true words Venerable, could no longer hold back. With a trembling, tearful voice, she threw herself into Fang Chen's embrace, choking, "Why must you be so foolish?" Fang Chen was knocked staggering back by her impact, and only by exerting all his strength did he barely manage to steady himself and avoid falling. He raised his withered hand and gently stroked her silky long hair, smiling weakly. "Who told me? I consider you half of my family." Hearing these words, the true words Venerable's heartstrings were fiercely plucked. She tightened her arms as if wanting to meld this man into her own flesh and blood, sobbing, "No, from this moment on, you are my family." In that instant, the true words Venerable was completely conquered. Body and soul, both were utterly captivated by this little nemesis who made her both love and pity. Cough, cough. Fang Chen suddenly bent over, seized by a violent coughing fit. The true words Venerable was startled out of her surging emotions, hurriedly supported him, her eyes full of panic. "Your body." She suddenly recalled the jade bottle left by the thousand charms Venerable before she departed. So she reached out across space, pulled the jade bottle gleaming with emerald, green life spirit liquid into her palm, and carefully poured a mouthful into Fang Chen. A scene of utmost miraculousness then unfolded before her eyes. Fang Chen's aged, decrepit body began to reverse at a visible rate, shrunken flesh and blood became plump again, wrinkled skin returned to smoothness in the blink of an eye. He had returned to the handsome youth in his prime. Not only that, but the numerous hidden injuries sustained in the consecutive fierce battles, and even the completely exhausted spiritual domain, were miraculously fully restored. You have to understand that mysterious little divine ring was crafted by a special sage, precisely to achieve such restoration of the domain. What kind of heaven-defying substance was this life-spirit liquid, to also possess such divine effects? "Don't stop, drink a bit more." The true words Venerable's eyes were filled with unconcealable concern, and she was about to continue pouring it down for him. Fang Chen hastily snatched the jade bottle away, saying urgently, "Enough, enough, don't waste any more treasure." Then, his eyes brimming with excitement, he shouted toward the two figures far off in the distance, Lu, Senior Anonymous. "Fellow Taoist Minjai, come over and try this spirit liquid too." The two of them, one had all his flesh and blood sucked dry by the giant king's spear in the earlier battle, the other had even had his crown, his very path to enlightenment, shattered. Since this bottle of spirit liquid was so heaven-defying, perhaps it would be effective for them as well. Hearing his call, the two immediately rushed over, each taking a sip from the jade bottle. An even more exhilarating sight appeared. Minjai Asura, King's shattered crown, nourished by the trickle of spirit liquid, easily recovered to its original state. And the dried-up flesh and blood of Square Mountain's first rank Pavilion Master instantly regained surging vitality. "Ha ha ha, at last, back to my peak." Square Mountain's first rank Pavilion Master laughed heartily towards the sky, his voice full of elation and lingering resentment. "I was suppressed and beaten by that 5-star geek Ant King earlier, truly too stifling. What a pity, even if I want to settle the score now, there are no more 5-star giant kings to fight." Upon hearing this, a trace of icy cold gleam suddenly flickered in Fang Chen's eyes. "What's so difficult about fighting another battle? You go ahead to Sky Remnant City and wait for me. Once I return from the ancient wilderness hunting grounds, I'll go with you to pull off something big." A thread of chilling, murderous intent also spread in Square Mountain's first rank Pavilion Master's eyes as he slowly nodded. That bunch of long, entrenched cancers indeed should be completely eradicated. But immediately he glanced apprehensively at the sky dome hanging high above, hesitating. "But if that old bastard intervenes to obstruct us, what then?" Fang Chen fiercely clenched his fist, his voice filled with ruthless resolve. "Then we'll kill him too." Before the expedition to the heavenly realm, these giant parasites leeching on the central plains must be uprooted. Anyone who stands in the way dies. After healing the Pavilion Master and Minjai Asura King, Fang Chen, holding the jade bottle, looked around for the next companion who had suffered irreversible severe injuries. Out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly caught sight of a large snow-white rabbit crouching in a corner, and his heart immediately tightened. When he drew closer, he saw that it was Yu Mingju, crouching alone before a decayed, ancient corpse, silently shedding tears. It was the remains of Wanking Wild Elder. Fang Chen's heart suddenly darkened, as if pricked by a needle. The reason he had barely managed to preserve the Star Abyss Great Venerable's soul from perishing was because he had asked the Ice-Heart Great Venerable to return that wish paper earring, the last hope. He had detonated all the lingering righteous Kai within the Wen High Academy, and also exhausted the thin layer of spacetime dust on his person. In the end, he had almost overdrawn his own life force as well. And when Wanking Wild Elder fell, these harsh conditions were not met at all. From behind, he gently held Yu Mingju's trembling shoulders and comforted her softly. "Mingju, the Elder's sacrifice was not in vain." It was precisely because of his desperate intervention that the Six Suns Giant King was forced to throw the nascent Soul Realm giants into the battlefield as well. That was what allowed the Star Abyss Great Venerable to seize that fleeting moment and complete the millennium-long counterattack plan. The Elder's sacrifice and efforts were not wasted. Yu Mingju's face still bore mottled tear stains, but she suddenly raised her head, her eyes carrying a resolute hatred. "Fang Chen, did you all think that those giants in Why Remnant City helped occupy the major prefectural teleportation arrays because they were controlled?" Fang Chen's gaze instantly became razor sharp as he asked in a deep voice, "Could it be? They did it willingly." Yu Mingju nodded heavily, her voice cold as iron. "The Imperial Observatory agents aren't fools. If they were truly controlled, how could they not see it? And how could they have been so unprepared, letting everything happen? Those damned beasts." Fang Chen clenched his fists, knuckles cracking. They actually truly worshipped those ancient giants as their ancestors. Originally, if he had to wield the butcher's knife against them, Fang Chen still harbored a faint unease in his conscience, afraid of wrongly killing innocents. Now, that last psychological barrier had completely vanished. Not a single one of those giants is innocent. Yu Mingju forcefully wiped the tears from her face, her words resonating with conviction. "Fang Chen, when you go to Sky Remnant City, take me with you. I want to personally kill those traitors." A pang of pain suddenly struck Fang Chen's heart. He thought to himself, if it weren't for those damn giants, their teacher might not have needed to act. That innocent and carefree girl who pursued a free-spirited life had, amidst the smoke of war, shed her naivety and now bore a bone, deep hatred. He couldn't help but curse under his breath, those murderous half-giants. Fang Chen exerted more strength in the hand gripping her shoulder and answered heavily, "All right, I'll take you with me. Go back to the Tianji Pavilion and wait for me." As his words fell, the pillars of light above the heads of Fang Chen, Gong Zixiang, Jiang Yishan, and others abruptly brightened. At the same time, the light pillars above the heads of Liu Baianhuang, Yanwang Xiao, and other ancient wilderness hunting contestants hidden across the central plains also flared up. Fang Chen released Yu Mingzhu and clasped his hands in farewell to everyone. "Everyone, I'll be back soon." No sooner had he spoken than he flipped himself onto the broad back of the white tiger. In the next moment, an unparalleled pulling force engulfed everyone, swallowing them up and dragging them into the depths of the void. After a bout of dizziness and spinning, as soon as Fang Chen's feet touched solid ground, even before he could clearly see his surroundings, he decisively flipped his hand and took out the primordial heaven, imprisoning gourd. He held the gourd horizontally and shouted fiercely, "Whoever comes close dies." As his vision gradually cleared, he realized that Liu Baianhuang and Yanwang Xiao had already positioned themselves to his left and right, forming a deadly pincer attack against him. If he hadn't promptly revealed the primordial heaven, imprisoning gourd, making them hesitant to risk everything, he would likely have been killed by now. Liu Baianhuang's eyes whirled slyly, then he turned and egged on, "Yanwang Xiao, the time for the ancient desolation hunt is about to end. If you don't act now, it'll be too late. That holy sword in your spine, as well as your spatial storage treasure, are all in his possession." Yanwang Xiao remained unmoved, snorted coldly, "Why don't you act? Once the ancient desolation hunt ends, that truce monument will be his." The two thus egged each other on, each hoping the other would strike first. As long as Fang Chen attacked one of them, the other could seize the opportunity to strike in a sudden sneak attack. Fang Chen stood proudly on the back of the white tiger, sneered as he looked at them, and mocked, "You don't even have that much courage. The Northern Heaven Realm and the Ancient Monster Realm sent you to, they truly entrusted the wrong people." Before his words had even faded, he directly pointed the gourd's mouth at Yanwang Xiao. Yanwang Xiao's face drastically changed, never expecting that Fang Chen would choose him as the first target. His figure flickered, decisively intending to flee. However, at that very moment, the gourd in Fang Chen's hand suddenly swerved, pointing straight at the restlessly eager and inwardly excited Liu Baianhuang. The smile on Liu Baianhuang's face instantly froze. Only then did he suddenly realize that Fang Chen's true target, it was himself. In terror, he blurted out, "Wait." Fang Chen coldly shouted his name, Liu Baianhuang. With a sharp swoosh sound, a chain of orange light shot out from the gourd, once again tightly binding Liu Baianhuang. This was already the second time Liu Baianhuang had been targeted by the primordial heaven, imprisoning gourd, yet he still felt waves of heart-pounding terror. That feeling of despair on the brink of death was like stumbling into an endless abyss, making his limbs icy cold and leaving him no will to resist whatsoever. He hastily shouted, "Wait, don't kill me, I'll return the memory silver sand to you." Saying so, he hurriedly threw out that handful of memory silver sand. At this moment, the memory silver sand no longer looked the same as before. Faintly, there was an additional layer of hazy, fantastical mist within it. Obviously, it had been re-refined by a sage-level mirage beast using great magic power, even incorporating the power of law, making its effects vastly different beyond comparison. A cold glint flickered in Fang Chen's eyes as he coldly demanded, "You think a mere handful of sand can buy your life? Tell me, how did you get the chaotic ancient blood marquis to act?" He calculated in his heart that since he was going to launch an expedition against the Heaven Realm, gaining an additional sage-level power would increase his chances of victory. If the ancient monster realm could persuade the chaotic ancient blood marquis to seize the ancient desolation order for them, why couldn't the Middle Earth? Upon hearing this, Liu Baianhuang showed obvious hesitation on his face. Fang Chen snorted coldly and pressed, "Are you stalling for time, waiting for Yanwang Xiao to attack me? Then there's no need to wait any longer." As he spoke, he made as if to activate the primordial heaven, imprisoning gourd and draw Liu Baianhuang into it. Terrified, Liu Baianhuang's face turned deathly pale, and he hastily shouted, "Wait." Extremely unwilling, he took out a palm-sized blood-red orb from his storage space. At a glance, it looked like a miniature blood-red moon. Fang Chen was not unfamiliar with this item. Back then, that chaotic ancient blood marquis had descended upon the Middle Earth with a towering blood moon beneath his feet. Liu Baianhuang honestly confessed, "Crush this blood moon, and you can speak with the chaotic ancient blood marquis across realms. As long as you can afford the price he wants, he will act for you. Even if the price you pay is sufficient, it is not entirely impossible to make all 7 chaotic ancient marquis serve you. I'll give this item to you. Can you swear an oath to spare my life?" A bright light blazed in Fang Chen's eyes, and he was ecstatic inside. A treasure that could communicate with the 7 chaotic ancient marquis across realms was a once, in Amidst, great opportunity. After a brief thought, he loudly declared, "Fine, I swear on my own domain that as long as you give this item to me, I will spare your life." Hearing this, Liu Baianhuang breathed a slight sigh of relief, secretly thinking that in front of so many people, Fang Chen could not possibly break his oath. Thus, he hesitantly threw the blood-colored orb over, saying, "All right, the item is yours." Unexpectedly, while the blood orb was still flying through the air, a strand of silver, glowing hair swept over like a ribbon, not only wrapping up the blood orb, but also sweeping away the memory, silver, sand on the ground in one go. Lu Zhu triumphantly held the 2 items in her hands and playfully laughed. "Sorry, I've taken both of them." After saying that, she even cast a sly and clever look at Fang Chen. Fang Chen understood tacitly, shrugged helplessly at Liu Baianhuang, and said, "Liu Baianhuang, you didn't hand the blood orb to me personally, so you can't blame me for breaking my oath." Liu Baianhuang completely broke down on the spot and cursed in collapse. "Fuck, you 2 swindlers." Collect. Fang Chen gave him no chance to ramble further and decisively activated the primordial heaven, imprisoning Gourd. With a muffled boom, Liu Baianhuang's entire person, along with his screams, instantly turned into a cloud of smoke and was violently sucked into the gourd. "You dare kill me, my father will never let you off." His voice abruptly stopped as the smoke disappeared. Thus, the second expert of the 5 decays of heaven and man realm had become a prisoner within Fang Chen's gourd. Lu Zhu joyfully ran up to Fang Chen, proudly holding the blood moon and memory silver sand before his eyes, and coquettishly laughed. "Hee, am I clever or not?" Fang Chen dotingly stroked her head, and then noticed that she had, from somewhere, snatched a dazzling crown and was wearing it on her head. He figured that if he hadn't returned, she would have taken first place representing Middle-earth. A wave of genuine praise welled up in his heart, and he laughed heartily. "My wife Lu Zhu is, of course, the cleverest." Lu Zhu stuffed the 2 items into his hand, then threw herself into his arms, grinning and acting spoiled. "But my husband is the cleverest one." This dovey scene made the observing experts from all sides roll their eyes. Someone couldn't help but curse under their breath. "What a pair of adulterous dogs." Another echoed, "Clearly, they're the bully couple of Middle-earth." HMPH. The white tiger guarding nearby let out an angry snort, raised its massive tiger paw like a small mountain, and slammed it onto the ground with a thunderous boom, shaking everyone off balance. The experts, frightened by this tremor, hurriedly changed their tune and flattered. "What I meant was, the 2 of them are truly a perfect match, so much like a couple." Indeed, when husband and wife are united, their sharpness can sever gold, truly enviable to the extreme. The originally tense atmosphere immediately turned harmonious and civilized. Just then, Yan Wangxiao, sensing something amiss, sneaked back to the scene. When he discovered that Liu Baianhuang had disappeared without a trace, he understood most of the situation. He stared fixedly at the gourd in Fang Chen's hand, whose color had already dimmed, his eyes blazing with ferocity, and loudly incited, "Fellow Taoists, his gourd can obviously no longer be used. If anyone still wants to seize the truce monument, now is the time to act with me." If truly besieged by dozens of people, even with the White Tiger's protection, Fang Chen would likely be unable to escape disaster. However, none of those present responded to his call. If they had truly intended to act, they would have swarmed in as soon as Fang Chen subdued Liu Baianhuang. Zhang Yishan folded his arms across his chest and lazily said, "Forget it, the hunt is almost over. Even if we snatch his light pillar now, first place wouldn't be ours, and in the end, wouldn't we just be making a wedding dress for you, Yan Wang Xiao?" The experts from other realms mostly harbored the same thought. If there were more time, these weaker cultivators could employ strategies like sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight to slowly scheme and maneuver. But in the current situation, where would they find any opportunity? Yan Wangxiao, seeing that he couldn't rally the crowd, placed his last hope on Gongzi Xiang and said sternly, "Gongzi Xiang, will you not act? His light pillar is 260 zhang high, while yours is only 180. Gongzi Xiang, with his hands clasped behind his back, said in a flat yet unquestionable tone, "The central lands are worthy of this first place. I, the Emperor, cede it to them." As his words fell, without waiting for the primordial hunt's time limit to truly end, he directly soared into the air and drifted away gracefully. Before departing, his figure paused briefly in midair. He gazed down at Fang Chen and said meaningfully, "When you have time, come to the divine capital. No, you will come very soon." With that, he suddenly waved his hand, scattering a shower of brilliant, colorful droplets that rained down upon Fang Chen. A voice drifted down, "This is for you. We shall meet again in the divine capital." Though puzzled, Fang Chen still swept his sleeve, catching all the colorful droplets that filled the sky. When he looked closely, his pupils suddenly contracted, and he blurted out, "These are divine acupoint-opening nails." These were no mere droplets, but rather divine acupoint-opening nails capable of helping one open the ninth acupoint. 800 years ago, the Central Lands had also experienced such a rain of divine nails, benefiting countless people who thus broke through the barrier of the nine, aperture nascent soul. Fang Chen himself had once benefited from a broken divine acupoint-opening nail, which allowed him to rapidly step into the realm of nine, aperture spirit transformation. Before leaving, Gongzi Xiang had actually bestowed upon him such a bountiful rain of divine acupoint-opening nails. A rough count showed at least 1,000 of them, meaning in the near future, the Central Lands would gain at least 1,009 aperture nascent soul cultivators qualified to break through to the spirit transformation realm. Even if only 1% ultimately succeeded in reaching spirit transformation, that would still give the Central Lands 10 more spirit transformation powerhouses. Even with the worst luck, they would at least gain 1,009 aperture nascent soul cultivators, an unparalleled and tremendous boon to the Central Lands today. When Fang Chen, filled with gratitude, looked up to give thanks, Gongzi Xiang had already stepped onto flowing clouds and soared straight up, vanishing into the vast void. It dawned on Fang Chen that these divine acupoint-opening nails actually originated from the divine capital. Could it be that the rain of divine acupoint-opening nails that blessed the Central Lands 800 years ago also came from some supreme existence of the divine capital? Why would they give the Central Lands a rain of divine acupoint-opening nails? As he pondered, the white tiger beside him suddenly let out a low roar, angry yet tinged with fear. It looked as if it had seen an enemy from a past life. Fang Chen followed the white tiger's gaze, and the corner of his mouth twitched violently. He saw a 6-year-old girl with a cute, innocent face, dressed in a black pleated skirt, treading the sky as she drifted over. The newcomer was none other than. It was Kiki of the Sin Realm. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, her grape-sized eyes practically shooting fire. "You little brat, did you have a lot of fun selling my small divine rings?" Fang Chen's mouth twitched as he smiled apologetically. "Senior Kiki, hear me out. I didn't expect the small divine rings to be preserved perfectly intact. It was out of a simple thought of not wasting provisions that I sold the extra ones." Flames in Kiki's eyes grew fiercer. "Then what about impersonating my disciple? I took all the blame, while you reaped all the benefits." Fang Chen coughed dryly and said awkwardly, "That was because I admired Senior Kiki's business acumen, and I hope to follow your example and become a formidable merchant." Kiki laughed in sheer anger. "Absolutely not. You are the most unscrupulous merchant of all. It's me who should become your apprentice." Seeing that her anger wouldn't subside, a clever thought flashed in Fang Chen's eyes. He took out Yanwang Xiao's spatial storage device. "Senior Kiki, this is a spatial storage device I fairly traded from Yanwang Xiao. Unfortunately, I don't know the incantation and can't open it. How about we make a deal? You get the incantation, I provide the device, and we split 50-50. What do you say?" "Oh!" Hearing there was profit to be made, the fire in Kiki's eyes quickly receded. She stroked her chin in thought. The savings of a 5 Kai Archangel wouldn't be meager. Her heart was moved. Yanwang Xiao's face turned green on the spot, dividing his spatial storage device right in front of him. "This is outrageous." Yanwang Xiao said sternly, "Fang Chen, return the spatial storage device to me, and there will still be room for reconciliation between us. Otherwise, it's a matter of life and death." Fang Chen gave him a cold glance, a joke. "You stabbed me in the back with a sword earlier, and I haven't even made you pay the price yet, and you still want room for reconciliation. That's long gone." After saying this, he looked again at Kiki of the Sin Realm. After a moment of thought, Kiki turned her grape-sized eyes toward Yanwang Xiao, squeezing a sweet smile onto her face. "Big brother Yanwang Xiao, may I borrow your incantation?" Yanwang Xiao warily stepped back and questioned in a deep voice, "Kiki, think carefully. Do you also want to make an enemy of my angel clan?" Kiki continued smiling adorably. "All right, if Big Brother doesn't want to lend it, then I'll just take it myself." As she finished speaking, the smile on her face instantly vanished. She snorted coldly. "An ownerless incantation is available for anyone to take." She pulled out a glittering golden mirror and shone it at Yanwang Xiao. Yanwang Xiao's expression changed drastically. He tried to teleport away, but the instant the golden beam from the mirror hit him, his entire being seemed to lose its soul, and he froze in place in a daze. Kiki asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror, what is the incantation for his spatial storage device?" A line of text immediately appeared in the mirror, "Unswerving devotion." Seeing these 4 characters, Fang Chen immediately took out the spatial storage device. With a thought, the device indeed opened. Done. Fang Chen rejoiced inwardly. A 5-Kai archangel who came to participate in the primordial hunt, he dared not imagine how many treasures were hidden within. Kiki quickly flew over, her eyes sparkling. "Hurry, pour everything out. We'll each rely on our own discernment and speed to take what catches our eye." Fang Chen frowned inwardly. If only the little Killen were here at a time like this. Its treasure, appraising ability, would surely identify several top-tier treasures. Unfortunately, ever since he had delivered souls and gained merit for the Tai Kang Great State, the little Killen had taken those merits upon itself and fallen into a deep slumber again. At this moment, Lu Zhu beside him gently drew a circle on the back of his hand. Fang Chen then realized that Lu Zhu, having long stayed in the celestial realm and seen many Angel Clan ruins, was not necessarily inferior to Kiki in understanding Angel Clan treasures. After a brief consideration, he decisively poured out all the contents of the spatial storage device. Instantly, holy light blazed forth. Various items unique to the Angel Clan, imbued with holy power, cascaded out with a clatter. The holy power in several places was exceptionally dense, and for a moment, Fang Chen didn't know which one to choose. But Lu Zhu suddenly discovered something. She gasped sharply and stamped her foot, pointing to an article of clothing that radiated a large expanse of holy light. It was a cloak woven from white feathers, with streams of pure Kai flowing over it. Even without her speaking, Fang Chen understood that Lu Zhu had discovered a great treasure. But Kiki had also discovered it. Her already enormous eyes instantly widened larger than brass bells, and she reached out to grab it. How could Fang Chen let her beat him to it? He had long prepared his void fishing rod and swung it out fiercely. In the next instant, the hook accurately caught the feathered garment and dragged it straight back. Kiki's grab caught nothing but air, and she was so angry her cheeks puffed up. "Let me have this one, and I'll let you pick 2 others." Fang Chen grabbed the feathered garment and stuffed it directly into the heavenly thunderstone. "You said yourself, by speed, whoever gets it first owns it." Kiki was furious, but had no choice but to first pick something else. Fang Chen wasn't idle either. Under Lu Zhu's guidance, he rapidly selected many great treasures. To his pleasant surprise, he even discovered a golden feather that Zia Keoj had given him. However, this feather was dull in color and rather damaged, clearly not as effective as the one from Zia Keoj, but it should be fine for blocking non-fatal attacks. Besides that, there was a crystal necklace full of holy aura, a top-grade defensive spirit artifact that seemed to require Angel Clan holy power to activate, just right to give to Zia Keoj. Finally, there was a jar of peculiar snow-white flames. Fang Chen held it in his hands without any discomfort, feeling only warmth and comfort. But Lu Zhu, standing at a distance, was so wary of it that she kept backing away, her face showing traces of pain. Lu Zhu frowned and said, "This is the sacred fire of the Angel Clan. It has a suppressing effect on us, Asura." Sacred fire. Come to think of it, 10,000 years ago, the Angel Clan and the Asura Clan were mortal enemies. They once fought their way into each other's worlds. It's only natural that they possess things that can suppress each other. Keep this sacred fire for now. The rest are all heavenly treasures brimming with spiritual energy. Most are beneficial to the nascent soul stage, their spiritual energy even denser than in the southern heaven realm. A few are resources usable only at the deity transformation stage. Among them, a black fruit caught Fang Chen's attention. At first glance, the fruit looked very much like a human eye, with a profound divine essence swirling within it. It was somewhat unsettling to look at. Lu Zhu exclaimed in surprise, "My husband, this is a truth fruit. It can help your human race in deity transformation comprehend their own Tao. It's long been extinct in the southern heaven realm, but unfortunately, there's only one, so its effect is limited." Fang Chen was greatly astonished. After the deity transformation stage, each subsequent comprehension of the Tao is as arduous as the initial enlightenment that leads to deity transformation. To think this truth fruit could have such an effect. What a great item, take it. Not long after, Kai Kai and Fang Chen roughly divided the spoils, leaving only a pile of worthless odds and ends on the ground, unwanted by either. Both wore smiles that showed they hadn't come in vain. Of course, where there are those who are happy, there are those who are not. When Yan Wangxiao broke free from the mirror's control and saw the scene on the ground, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. All the good things had been picked clean, and not a single one was left for him. He cursed fiercely. "You two black-hearted scoundrels, spit out my stuff." Kai Kai's smile vanished, and she snorted coldly, "Yours? If you call their names, will they answer you? What's in my hands is mine. Just try to snatch it." "As it happens, I heard someone wants to buy an Angel Clan slave. Be careful, or I might just use you to make that deal." Yan Wangxiao was furious but dared not speak. This Kai Kai had a notorious reputation. She could sell anything, including people. If he truly angered her, he, Yan Wangxiao, would probably end up as an unclaimed person, and someone might just pick him up. Having scared off Yan Wangxiao, Kai Kai's cheerful smile returned. She said to Fang Chen, "Kid, our debt is settled. Farewell for now." This haul not only recouped the loss of the small divine ring, but also brought her a tidy profit. Satisfied, she prepared to leave. Fang Chen quickly called out to her, "Wait, this junior still wishes to do a few more deals with you, senior." "Oh," Kai Kai said with interest, "I want that pair of wings. What's your price?" Fang Chen hadn't yet figured out the wing's true value. How could he let Kai Kai swindle him so easily? He smiled slightly and said, "Let me first tell you what I want." Fang Chen's gaze burned intensely as he stared at the golden mirror and said gravely, "I need the power of a sage, preferably the complete sage power of a 3-calamity sage." On the other side of the mirror, Kai Kai rubbed her sharp chin and shook her head. "I don't have it on me. It requires a special order." Fang Chen's expression remained unchanged, as if he had expected this. He continued, "I also need top-grade spirit swords, at least 3 of them." Kai Kai gave a light humph and rolled her eyes. "You asked before. This also requires a special order." Fang Chen lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then lifted his eyes and said, "I also need a magical treasure capable of killing a sage." Upon hearing this, Kai Kai couldn't help but roll her eyes dramatically. "You ask for quite a lot, but what will you trade?" Suddenly, her eyes darted about, and she smiled slyly. "If it's that cloak, I might consider it." Fang Chen was secretly alarmed. He hadn't expected Kai Kai to value that cloak so highly. Was the cloak worth exchanging for all 3 of those items combined? But he still resolutely shook his head and said, "I won't trade the cloak for now. I'll give you something else." Kai Kai clicked her tongue disdainfully, drawling, "Besides the cloak, what else of value do you have?" Fang Chen said nothing more. He silently took out a pitch-black Buddhist scripture from his robes and said in a low voice, "This is a deliverance scripture created by a Buddha from the Hell Realm. It can pacify the resentments of departed souls and gain boundless merit. If you can produce the 3 items I require, I will allow you to transcribe a copy." Kai Kai's spirits were greatly shaken, her eyes nearly popping out. Could this be the hell-suppressing soul, calming sutra? Many sages are seeking it at great cost, but the Buddha's true transmission is never imparted to outsiders, and no one can obtain it. "You actually have a copy. Is it real or fake?" Fang Chen closed the scripture and tucked it away again. He said calmly, "I'm not foolish enough to deceive a mighty great lord of the 5 decays of heaven and man." Fervent light instantly ignited in Kai Kai's eyes. She had dealt with Fang Chen more than once, and knew well that although this fellow was even more black-hearted than herself, he was by no means a fool. From this, it was highly likely that the health-suppressing soul calming sutra was a genuine copy. If she could get her hands on it, she would probably make a huge profit. She immediately suppressed her excitement, rubbed her chin, and said, "I don't carry the sage, killing treasure with me, so I'll count it as your pre-order. In a month, I'll bring the 3 items to the Middle Continent to find you. If the cooperation goes smoothly, I might consider making you my strategic business partner. From then on, when you travel across the worlds, you can use my name." Joy appeared on Fang Chen's face, and he laughed heartily. "Very well. I await your esteemed arrival, Senior Kai Kai. However, the strategic partnership, I think I'll pass. If I use your name, I'm afraid I might get beaten to death." Kai Kai giggled, her tone haughty. "Kid, you know nothing of my fearsome reputation. Fine, see you in a month." With that, she waved her hand contentedly, and the glittering golden treasure mirror instantly retracted. With a teleport, she vanished into the void. Fang Chen gazed in the direction Kai Kai had disappeared, still wearing an expression of amazement. Young Master Xiang and Kai Kai both fear not the void and can traverse it freely. That's something only sages can do. However, Lu Zhu smiled mysteriously and said softly, "My husband can now do it too." Fang Chen's eyebrows shot up, his eyes unable to hide his excitement. That feathered robe. Lu Zhu was equally overjoyed and nodded vigorously. That's right. That feathered robe is woven from the feathers of an archangel and contains the power of laws. When worn, one can fear not the chaotic currents of the void and fly freely within it. I once saw a painting in a ruin depicting a group of archangels wearing such robes, soaring blissfully through the void. From now on, my husband can also fly through the void, just like an angel, whenever he wishes. Fang Chen's heart was filled with indescribable joy. Setting aside disputes and jointly developing this storage device with Kai Kai was truly the wisest decision. Of course, it was also thanks to Lu Zhu's guidance. Otherwise, Kai Kai would have definitely beaten him to it. He pulled Lu Zhu into his arms and planted a firm kiss on her smooth forehead. You've made a great contribution this time. What reward do you want? Lu Zhu's pretty face flushed, and her voice was as faint as a mosquito's. I don't want any reward. Just being able to follow my husband is enough. From now on, whatever you ask me to do, I'll do it. I'll listen to you in everything. Fang Chen was deeply moved in his heart. Lu Zhu had given her entire heart to him, completely and without reservation. How could he bear to let down such a wonderful girl? Just at that moment, the entire ancient wilderness hunting ground suddenly trembled slightly. In the giant hourglass high in the sky, the last grain of sand silently slipped away. The ancient wilderness hunt had come to an end. Immediately after, the lazy voice of the hunting grounds master, as expected, resounded throughout the world. The hunt is over. Out of 83 participants, 48 survived. The casualties are higher than last time, but it was far more interesting than any previous event. Now I announce the results. First place, Fang Chen of the Middle Continent. Reward, 1 war, free steel. Before the words had even faded, a palm-sized silver steel, gleaming brilliantly, descended from the sky and slammed onto the ground in front of Fang Chen with a thud. Fang Chen hurriedly looked down but couldn't help pausing in surprise. The material of the silver steel was clearly a very common refining material, found everywhere in any sect of the Middle Continent. Was such a thing really capable of intimidating ancient dark beings, keeping them from invading? When he looked more closely at the characters carved on the steel, he was completely dumbfounded. On the steel, there was boldly carved a single, crooked word, a scram. That's right, just the word scram. Moreover, it was written extremely sloppily, as if someone had drunkenly scribbled it at random, perfunctory to the extreme. Fang Chen was instantly filled with speechlessness. So this was the war, free steel, that powerhouses from countless worlds fought over with their lives. Compared to the high-end, majestic treasure he had envisioned, it wasn't just slightly different, it was completely unrecognizable. Yet when he bent down to pick up the war, averting steel, the moment his fingers touched its surface, an unimaginable majesty surged from within, crashing down like an overwhelming tide, almost driving him to prostrate himself in worship. His heart jolted. This really was the war, averting steel. The hunting ground master's lazy voice sounded again. Place it at the center of a world, and it will deter ancient dark beings from invading. The effect lasts only 1,000 years, just enough to avoid one invasion. Fang Chen held the war, averting steel, lowering his head in contemplation. After a long while, he suddenly stroked his chin and asked, if I take it to a world still at war, can it also frighten off those ancient dark beings? The hunting ground master clearly paused, then slowly replied, in theory, yes. But no one has ever done it, because taking it to another world means being mentally prepared never to bring it back. Fang Chen's eyes suddenly burst with delighted light. In that case, wouldn't I be able to make a fortune across the worlds? Maintain world peace. The hunting ground master fell into a prolonged silence. He suddenly had an intense urge to crack open Fang Chen's skull and see how his brain was wired. Yes, an extremely intense urge. After a long time, the hunting ground master took a deep breath, calmed himself, and said, congratulations on being the champion of this year's primordial hunt. And congratulations, you've also earned the qualification for the ultimate hunt. However, participation is entirely voluntary. If you are willing, I will issue the hunting token. If not, there will be no coercion. Fang Chen was slightly stunned upon hearing this. After the primordial hunt, there was actually a hunt of an even higher level. He immediately asked, is the ultimate hunt also about hunting ancient dark beings? The hunting ground master was silent for a moment, then slowly uttered a few words. You yourselves are the prey. Fang Chen's heart jolted violently. You yourselves. Did this mean the ultimate hunt was not just for him alone? Would the other first place winners of the primordial hunts also join? Suppressing his shock, he asked again, "Where is the hunting ground?" The hunting ground master's tone turned uncharacteristically serious. "As far as the eye can see, it is all battlefield." Fang Chen's brows slowly furrowed. In other words, anywhere in the world could be the hunting ground. He truly couldn't think of any reason to participate in such a perilous hunt, since he already had the war averting steel. He asked in a low voice, then, "What is the reward?" The hunting ground master no longer hesitated and simply, forcefully uttered 4 words, "The end of the martial path." Fang Chen's eyes instantly widened. What is the end of the martial path? The Saint Realm. Probably more than that. Could a single hunt directly send him to the end of the martial path? He knew that the great void ancient tree only guaranteed his advancement to the Saint Realm. The hunting ground master's voice sounded again, laced with a heavy warning. "Abandon or accept. I remind you, only one person can survive the ultimate hunt. All others will die. It is 100 times crueler than the primordial hunt." Fang Chen's heart jolted again. He pondered and asked, before the hunt begins, can the qualification be transferred to someone else? The hunting ground master said, "As long as the token approves, it can be transferred." Only then did Fang Chen relax. Without any more hesitation, he decisively said, "Please give me the token." With a crisp and decisive fine, a fist-sized crystal shot down. Fang Chen grabbed it in his hand and examined it carefully. The crystal was crystal clear, and within it faintly could be seen a flame-like silhouette. A strange expression suddenly appeared on his face. Seeing this, the hunting ground master explained, "Don't be surprised. This is a material you cannot comprehend. It's normal not to understand it. When the flame within is lit, you win." However, the strange expression on Fang Chen's face did not fade, but instead grew deeper. What he found strange was not the material at all. It was that he had in his bosom a crystal exactly identical. And within that crystal there already burned a white flame, far more vigorous than the flame before him. That was the memento his mother had left him. Fang Chen felt a vast bewilderment surge in his heart, as if he had fallen into an endless fog. Why was his mother's memento that very token of the ultimate hunt? Who exactly was she? And where was she now? Seeing his dazed expression, the hunting ground master asked, "Any more questions?" Fang Chen snapped back to his senses, suppressing the surging waves in his heart, and said in a low voice, "No more." The hunting ground master's gaze swept over the remaining survivors, and he announced loudly, "Congratulations on surviving. Each of you may choose a small gift." Instantly, rays of white light appeared on the celestial dome, each encasing a treasure. Fang Chen looked up, and his heart thumped. He saw grade 7 grand pills suspended among them, and even higher, grade divine pills radiating brilliant light. Enlightenment fruits crystal clear, and spiritual artifacts exuding astonishing pressure, each one a rare treasure of the world. Lu Zhu was overjoyed and cried out crisply, "Husband, I'll get you the enlightenment fruit." Fang Chen quickly reached out and held her down, whispering sternly, "Don't waste the opportunity." He had thought they were just ordinary small gifts. He never expected each one to be so astonishing. Fang Chen's gaze was like lightning as he scanned around, and suddenly he spotted a drop of blood as black as ink, emitting a terrifying spiritual pressure. Its rhythm was exactly the same as the demon race's ancestral blood of 10,000 spirits, but it contained an extremely dreadful yin energy, piercingly cold to the bone. Without a doubt, this was most likely the blood of the Hell Realm's Realm Lord, which would be of unparalleled benefit to Lu Zhu in enhancing her Asura talent. A sharp light flashed in Fang Chen's eyes, and he said solemnly, "Get that drop of blood." Lu Zhu hesitated, biting her lip. "Husband, I don't want it. Let's get what you need instead." Fang Chen frowned and spoke a bit more sternly. "Didn't you say you'd listen to me in everything?" Only then did Lu Zhu reluctantly sigh, reaching out to take the drop of black blood. The powerhouses from various realms were also beaming with joy, each obtaining astonishing opportunities. Watching this, Fang Chen looked envious, fully aware that these opportunities were once in 1,000 years. Seeing this, the hunting ground master announced, "Very well, this hunt is now concluded. Everyone, return to your own worlds." As soon as he spoke, rays of light surrounded everyone. The ferocious beasts across the hunting ground also let out low roars and slowly retreated toward the bronze earth. The white tiger beneath Fang Chen let out a low growl, turned its head to look at him, its tiger eyes showing deep parting emotions. Only then did Fang Chen realize a cruel reality. the beasts in the hunting ground would be trapped and die in this confined place. The next opening would not be for 1,000 years. By then, they would probably have long turned into a handful of yellow earth. No, they wouldn't even last that long. The beasts would constantly slaughter each other, and one day the white tiger would fall in the brutal struggle. After a moment of hesitation, Fang Chen cupped his hands and asked earnestly, "Senior, may I take this white tiger with me?" The hunting ground master replied indifferently, "There is no such rule. Even though you are the champion, no exception will be made for this." The white tiger's eyes showed gratitude. It raised a front paw and gently waved it. Fang Chen felt a surge of affection, and truly couldn't bear to let it spend the rest of its life in this primordial hunting ground. Fang Chen's gaze shifted. He took the drop of Hell Realm Lord's blood from Lu Zhu's hand, and also brought out the dog bowl. It happened that a day had passed, and the dog bowl could be used again. He placed the black blood into the bowl, and the next instant, 2 drops of blood appeared in it. Fang Chen took out 1 drop, casually tossed it back, and declared loudly, "My wife doesn't want this gift. Exchange it for the white tiger. Surely that's acceptable, right?" The hunting ground master was stunned, actually rendered speechless by this maneuver. After a long while, he said with an exasperated laugh, take it, and you get out of here as well. Don't let me see you again." Fang Chen was overjoyed. The white tiger couldn't believe it either. Then it ran back ecstatically, bouncing before him like a big dog and letting out excited roar or cries. He pulled Lu Zhu, leaped onto the tiger's back, and looking at the powerhouses about to teleport, announced loudly, "Fellow cultivators of all realms, I, Fang, solemnly declare, war-averting steel. Our Middle-earth does not want it. If any realm is interested, send representatives to Middle-earth to negotiate as soon as possible. The highest bidder wins." As soon as these words were spoken, the powerhouses of all realms were collectively shocked. Are there truly worlds that would reject the war-free steel? That is a supreme treasure that could not be bought even with the lives of 1 or 2 sages. It can spare a world from 1,000 years of war, accumulate boundless power, a colossal treasure irreplaceable by any resource. Immediately, someone shouted, "Good, I'll go back and inform the sages at once." This is an event that will shake all realms. Who knows how many worlds will come to contend for it? Our world might not stand a chance. Our world wants it to. Wait for us. As the words fell, silhouettes enveloped in light successively rushed into the void. Fang Chen, Lu, and the white tiger also vanished without a trace along with that light. Above the sky, the hunting ground master rubbed his brow, helplessly saying, "How can a person have so many tricks up their sleeve?" He sighed, lifting his gaze to look at Ling Zuzi. The hunting ground master flexed his finger and flicked. A thread of unknown mighty power shot into Ling Zuzi's body. A scene that could be called a miracle appeared. Ling Zuzi's decayed body instantly emitted fragrance. His shattered divine ring rapidly healed, and 5 flames were even ignited. The hunting ground master calmly said, "Congratulations, the Central Land won first place by its own strength. According to the rules, you are free." Everyone looked at Ling Zuzi with envy. Everyone present, like Ling Zuzi, had made a deal with the hunting ground master at the brink of death, trading freedom for their lives. For 1,000 years, they had been imprisoned here with no release, and only Ling Zuzi was the exception. Tears streamed down Ling Zuzi's aged face. He had already mentally prepared for decay and death, but he hadn't expected Fang Chen to grant him a new lease on life. His voice trembled. "Thank you, master." The hunting ground master asked, "Where do you want to go?" Ling Zuzi subconsciously wanted to answer the Central Land, but after a second thought, he said, "Send me to the Southern Heaven Realm." Everyone was surprised. A woman beside him anxiously said, "Are you crazy? Not properly returning to your Central Land, but going to the Southern Heaven Realm controlled by giants." Ling Zuzi gave a long sigh. 1,000 years have passed. Where are the old friends now? I have left the Central Land for 1,000 years. Where would there be any old friends? Better to use this remaining body to fight another battle for my Central Land. Everyone fell silent. It turned out that 1,000 years had passed, a fleeting dream. The old homeland now only evoked sighs of things staying the same while people changed. The hunting ground master nodded gently. "Then I shall send you to the Southern Heaven Realm." He flicked his finger. A strand of light enveloped Ling Zuzi, and in an instant sent him away. The hunting ground master sat on his throne, and as he closed his eyes, a trace of melancholy filled his gaze. A moment later, he slowly rose and said solemnly, "All right, all of you go defend the walls. The dark tide is coming soon. If you withstand it, I will also grant you freedom. If not, then perish together with the hunting ground." Hearing the words dark tide, all faces showed traces of fear and unease. Facing the hunting ground that had existed for 10,000 years, they had no confidence in holding it. Central Land, taking Grand Province, Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. The sky suddenly tore open a rift, and Fang Chen, Elviju, and the White Tiger plummeted down simultaneously. Fang Chen was inwardly astonished. What kind of existence is the hunting ground master? Across countless distances, he could still send me precisely to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. While he was pondering, the people who sensed the enormous commotion rushed up with great surprise and joy. Familiar faces such as Liu Ruxu, Cloud Gown Fairy, and the Pavilion Master of Heavenly Secrets Pavilion came into view, and shouts rose one after another. Vice Pavilion Master Fa NG, husband, Fang, my love. Aside from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion personnel, the people of the Fire Worship sect were also all here. Fang Chen scanned them one by one, but was somewhat surprised Yu Mingzhu had not yet arrived. Presumably, the Wen High Academy had teleported them to another grand province. He thought to himself, wait for her to return first, then together slaughter their way to Tianyi City and avenge the forgetful old man of the wild and the unjustly dead beings of the Central Land. Coincidentally, there was a small hidden danger within the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion that needed his personal handling. Fang Chen's gaze was like lightning as he coldly scanned the crowd of the Fire Worship sect. He had never forgotten that the Fire Worship sect had an extremely suspicious disciple, a mere core formation realm cultivator, struck by the two-star water giant king, yet not dead. That person explained that they fell into a fire well, and the water origin source was neutralized by the fire well. But Fang Chen later investigated and found nothing capable of neutralizing the origin of a two-star water giant king. So, why did this Lin Zhenyu lie? The earlier battle was chaotic, and he had no time to attend to it. Now it was time to clear up these hidden dangers. Especially since that Lin Zhenyu was still staying in the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. It could not be tolerated any longer. The Fire Worship sect leader, noticing his unusual expression, asked with surprise, "Starfire Honored One, are you looking for someone?" Fang Chen's eyes held a deep meaning as he slowly asked, "Sect leader, do you have a disciple named Lin Zhenyu?" The Fire Worship sect leader looked surprised. "The Honored One actually knows my personal true disciple. Zhenyu, come and pay respects to Senior Starfire Honored One." Amid the rising cries, the young man who had been quietly standing behind the Fire Worship sect crowd finally pushed through the people in front and quickly walked up to Fang Chen. This young man had an utterly unremarkable ordinary appearance, the type that would be lost in a crowd and never found again. However, his cultivation had already steadily reached the perfection of the 9th layer of core formation, only needing a single opportunity to attempt to break through to nascent soul. The young man respectfully bowed, saying loudly, "Junior Lin Zhenyu pays respects to Starfire Honored One." Fang Chen sized him up and down. Judging by appearance alone, he could see no flaw at all. The pure human aura, the cultivation at the 9th layer of core formation, and the uneasy expression were all flawless. The Fire Worship sect leader spoke with eyes full of expectation. "Senior, do you happen to recognize this disciple of mine?" He secretly mused, could it be that by some chance encounter, his disciple had gained the appreciation of this Starfire Honored One? A thoughtful look appeared in Fang Chen's eyes. He was slightly moved in his heart. As the master, could even the Fire Worship sect leader not detect anything strange about Lin Zhenyu? Of beings that could disguise to this extent, Fang Chen had only seen one kind of creature. That is the hellish desolate beast, which, once it devours its target, can perfectly seize everything from them. And considering that the second heaven, touching black pillar, stood near the Fire Worship sect, the possibility of this hellish desolate beast hiding here was simply too great. Fang Chen suppressed the strange look in his eyes, and a smile appeared at the corner of his lips as he said loudly, "Our taking Grand Province has suffered great losses in this battle, and the number of nascent soul cultivators has sharply decreased. I plan to focus on cultivating a batch of junior disciples at the perfection of the 9th layer of core formation, helping them break through to nascent soul as soon as possible. Since Lin Zhenyu is your personal true disciple, I shall cultivate him well." Hearing this, the Fire Worship sect leader was overjoyed. Who didn't know that this Starfire Honored One is a treasure trove? Those members of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion with originally mediocre aptitudes were all pushed into the ranks of nascent soul by his hand. If Lin Zhenyu could also receive Fang Chen's focused cultivation, his future would be simply limitless. He immediately kicked Lin Zhenyu's knee, knocking him to his knees, and scolded, "Kneel and thank Senior for his patronage." Lin Zhenyu hurriedly lowered his head, kowtowing with extreme excitement. Junior thanks Senior Starfire for the grace of cultivation. This Junior is willing to go through fire and water for Senior, even if it means risking life and limb. Fang Chen smiled and reached out to pat his shoulder, saying gently, no need for excessive courtesy. At the moment his palm patted the shoulder, a small jar quietly appeared in Fang Chen's sleeve, its mouth slightly open. What the jar contained was precisely the heavenly realm's sacred fire. The instant the sacred fire's aura leaked out, Lin Jinyu's whole body jolted as if struck by lightning, his body trembled violently, as if targeted by some natural enemy, instinctively retreating several steps backward. Deep within Fang Chen's pupils, a hint of icy coldness flickered. This thing has an absolute counter, effect only on creatures of the Hell Realm. Lin Jinyu's true identity was already about to be exposed. The second hellish, desolate beast. Fang Chen was secretly shocked. Fortunately, he had kept an extra eye out and investigated the hidden danger in advance. Otherwise, a hellish, desolate beast had been hiding within the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion all along. Just thinking about it sent chills down his spine. However, Fang Chen did not expose it on the spot, nor did he directly strike to kill. Because to activate that bronze hellish, desolate beast, he needed the fresh blood of a living hellish, desolate beast. With lightning speed, he put away the sacred fire, then looked surprised and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Lin Jinyu was inwardly uncertain, but forced himself to appear calm and smiled dryly. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Senior." Fang Chen slightly furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, "A single touch from a divine transformation, honored one, and you are this startled. Your mental fortitude still needs strengthening. Come with me for the next few days. I'll show you some grand spectacles, and you'll naturally improve." Lin Jinyu's heart wavered with hesitation. This Starfire honored one had a fearsome reputation. If he stayed by his side for long, would his own secret be exposed? The fire-worshipping sect master beside him, however, was overjoyed and sternly rebuked, "Wretched boy, what are you standing there for? Quickly pay your respects to Starfire honored one, to be taken under the senior's wing and personally tutored. This is like green smoke rising from your ancestral grave." Lin Jinyu, terrified of being exposed, could only continue to put on a tearful, grateful expression, and kowtowed repeatedly. A barely perceptible cold glint flashed in Fang Chen's eyes, but his face retained a gentle smile as he said softly, "Get up." After temporarily resolving the hidden danger that was Lin Jinyu, Fang Chen subconsciously glanced in the direction of the underground palace. Yu Mingzhu had not yet returned. He retracted his gaze and casually reached into the spatial mirror, tipping out the Tianqin inside. At this moment, Tianqin was tightly bound by the immortal binding vine, her hair disheveled. On her originally very beautiful face, a large turtle had been crookedly drawn. Her exposed wrists and neck were covered in bruises, black and blue all over. It seemed that little rebel had indeed been taking good care of her. Fang Chen, better to die than be humiliated. Kill me now. Tianqin's face twisted as she shrieked hysterically. She had truly had enough of that seemingly cute and adorable little spirit beast that was actually vicious beyond compare. Fang Chen looked at her coldly and only spat 4 words, "As you wish." He drew purple lightning in a reverse grip and pressed its icy blade directly against Tianqin's neck, his gaze as cold as frost. These dark asuras, who secretly funded the ancient giants, were likewise a massive, hidden danger. It was indeed time to kill her as a sacrifice to heaven. But Lu Zhu stopped him, urgently saying, "Husband, wait." She looked at Tianqin, a hint of excitement flickering in her beautiful eyes, and explained, "She is the eldest princess of the Dark Asura royal family and knows many core secrets of the Dark Asuras. Killing her just like this would be a pity. Better to keep her for now and slowly force out the intelligence." Fang Chen rubbed the sword hilt deep in thought. When he counterattacked the heavenly realm in the future, the Dark Asuras would never simply wait for death. He turned to Lu Zhu and asked, "Are the Dark Asuras very strong? If they were merely an ordinary tribe, there would be no need for such trouble." "Extremely strong," Lu Zhu answered resolutely. "The bounty the Dark Asuras placed on that second princess, Tianji, is to help a 5, Crown Asura King break through to Asura Emperor. From this bounty alone, it can be determined that there is definitely an Asura Emperor presiding over their tribe." Hiss. Fang Chen's pupils constricted slightly. How could he have nearly forgotten that bounty so completely? Without an Asura Emperor presiding, how could they issue such an earth-shattering bounty? Thinking a layer deeper, the tribe where Hung Xiu belonged, oppressed by the giant race for years, could still produce a 5, Crown Asura King. Yet the Dark Asuras not only suffered no oppression from the giants, but instead enjoyed their protection. After 10,000 years of development, their strength was heaven knows how terrifying. Fang Chen felt a slight shock in his heart. Only now did he realize that he had ultimately underestimated the foundation of the Dark Asuras. The threat in the southern heavenly realm was by no means only the ancient giants. Tianqin, bound on the ground, let out a sharp, cold laugh. He. You want to extract intelligence from my mouth? I may be a mere woman, but don't underestimate my will. Before she could finish, a black divine wood club suddenly smashed down without warning. With a dull thud, it struck her head fiercely. Tianqin's expression froze. The next moment, a delayed, excruciating pain, as if from the torments of hell, instantly swept through her mind, causing her to roll wildly on the ground on the spot. Ah, it hurts so much. Boo-hoo, kill me, boo-hoo, hurry up and kill me. As she rolled, the pain was so intense that she broke down into loud wails. Fang Chen shrugged, his tone indifferent. Obviously, your will isn't as hard as my club. With time pressing, he had no leisure to interrogate slowly, so he first put Tianqin back into the spatial mirror. But the little rebel poked its head out from the side, staring eagerly at the black divine wood club, and begged in a milky voice, "Big brother, can I play with that club?" The moment these words were spoken, Tianqin inside the spatial mirror was scared out of her wits and shrieked, "Fang Chen, don't give it to him. I'll tell you whatever you ask. Please don't give it to this little devil." Fang Chen curled his lip, amused inwardly. She was so stubborn just now, but one whack from the club, and she became obedient as expected. At that moment, the white light swirling around Fang Chen, Lu Zhu, and Bai, who suddenly began to tremble violently without any warning. The next instant, the light suddenly transformed into a circular halo, carrying the majestic might of heaven, and madly radiated in all directions across the world. It swept across Take, in great province, spreading to every corner of the central land. In the depths of the void beneath primordial chaos province, the giant emperors and the 10 sins of the central land were still making their final, unwilling counterattack. They thought that as long as they could kill a sage before Fang Chen returned, there might still be a slim chance to turn the tables. However, at that very moment, the halo swept over. When the halo passed over the 10 sins of the central land, they showed little reaction. But the instant the light swept over the many giant emperors, the cursed sun wheels on their foreheads began to tremble violently. Those massive golden bodies quaked madly, the frequency of their trembling growing faster and faster, clearly on the verge of collapse. The sleeping giant emperor's face contorted drastically, and he spat blood as he roared in terror, "Emperor, we must go. The archaic hunt is over." The 6 sun giant emperor's eyes were bloodshot red, and he raised his head to the sky, unleashing an unwilling roar that shook the void. This emperor refuses to accept this. In this battle, the heavenly realm had staked everything. In the end, it was all like drawing water with a bamboo basket, all in vain. In this brief delay, countless hideous wounds had already burst open on the enormous bodies of several giant emperors, spraying thick black blood like rain. The sleeping giant emperor cried out hoarsely, "Where there is life, there is hope. We must hurry into the void to rescue our clansmen, save as many as we can. If we don't leave now, it will truly be too late. Move." He lunged forward, and together with several other giant emperors, tightly held onto the 6 sun giant emperor as they all sank into the depths of the void below, leaving the central land. Seeing this, the 10 sins, including the blue sky corrupt sage, also had eyes full of regret. The blue sky corrupt sage sheathed his moonlight longsword and let out a long sigh. Man's schemes are no match for heaven's designs. The heavenly realm had the timing of heaven and the advantage of the land, yet still lost. Such a pity. The myriad cloud sage angrily rebuked, "If it weren't for your 10 sins of the central land obstructing us 1,000 years ago, we would have won long ago. You sinners will sooner or later be cast down into the unintermittent hell." Hearing this, the blue sky corrupt sage merely chuckled and led the other 9 sins as their figures sank together into the depths of the void. His hoarse, cold voice echoed without end like a curse. "You think this is all over? He he he. The ones coveting this fertile land of the central land are far more than just the giant race. Prepare yourselves, for we shall return soon." Hef, hef, hef. As his voice faded, the silhouettes of the 10 sins sank completely into the depths of the void and vanished. The myriad cloud sage snorted heavily and said in a deep voice, "You want to run. Everyone, let's pursue them into the void and stop them from rescuing the giants." The Grand Wine Sacrifice raised a hand to stop him, slowly shaking his head. "Don't pursue. After this battle, the giants will no longer be able to easily invade our central land." He lifted his eyes, his profound gaze fixed straight on the sky, reaching black pillar ahead. What the halo intimidated was not merely those giants. Under the radiance of the halo, that sky reaching black pillar also shuddered violently, faintly showing signs of collapse. Once this sky-piercing pillar of light fully dispersed, those giants would never again be able to descend upon the world. The Grand Wine Sacrifice swept his sleeve and said gravely, "Moreover, we have more important things to do." The image of the 9 provinces once again appeared before everyone's eyes. This time the long-lost connection to Heaven Province was finally re-established. Sage Wanyan frowned deeply and roared in fury. "What in the world is Heaven Province doing? The great battle has ended, yet not a single one came to the final decisive battle." However, when the image truly cleared, the expression on his face froze abruptly. The other sages also showed looks of shock. The land of Heaven Province had been utterly reduced to scorched earth. Countless renowned spiritual veins and scenic sites lay shattered and ruined beyond recognition. At a glance, floating corpses covered the earth and rivers of blood flowed everywhere. The entire sky had been punched through with holes one after another, crisscrossing fissures nearly spreading across the whole province. Heaven Province was on the verge of being shattered completely. Its brutality was in no way inferior to that of primordial Chaos Province. Sage Tianyuo's expression turned grave as he said in astonishment, "What happened in Heaven Province? Weren't the main forces of the giants all here in our primordial Chaos Province?" The great libationer waved his sleeve once more, and the image immediately zoomed in, firmly locking onto the vicinity of the sky-reaching black pillar. They saw group after group of beings radiating yin energy like a tide slowly retreating along the sky, reaching black pillar toward the heavenly realm. Among them, the women were gracefully alluring with enchanting features. The men were tall and stalwart, exuding extraordinary auras. Many among them even wore crowns upon their heads. Their identities were about to be revealed, the Asura clan. Looking out, there were actually over 1,000 Asura kings and ordinary Asura clan members. They fought while retreating, with Heaven Province's powerhouses led by the young emperor fiercely pursuing them from behind. The 9 Nether Venerable narrowed his eyes and muttered, "The Dark Asura clan, why are they also joining the war? The lands of the Middle Land are not suited for their survival. Why would they help the giants attack the Middle Land?" The red-faced sage's expression grew even more solemn as he said gravely, "Even the Dark Asura clan has joined the war. This is the first time in 10,000 years. When the inferior sage Kingshan said earlier that the giants are not the only ones coveting the Middle Land, he was referring to the Dark Asura, wasn't he? Only then did everyone finally understand why Heaven Province had been unable to come to their aid for so long. Because they too were facing a calamity of annihilation. In a comparison of military strength, the Dark Asura clan clearly held the advantage. If Fang Chen had not returned in time from the primordial hunting grounds and ended this war, it would be hard to say who would have won or lost in Heaven Province. The great libationer's face hardened slightly as he made a prompt decision, move out, quickly go to reinforce Heaven Province. Sage Sixen felt uneasy, but with the other sages watching, he could only suppress the anxiety in his heart and brace himself to follow them. Within the heavenly mystery pavilion, Fang Chen and the others returned to the main hall. He sat upright in the pavilion master's seat, with Liu Ruxu seated quietly beside him. The rest all stood on either side of the great hall. The transcendent status of a deity transformation venerable dictated that those present could no longer sit as casually as before. Fang Chen looked around at everyone with a smile and announced, "Everyone, the war is over. The great tribulation of 1,000 years, we have survived it." Although they had long anticipated it in their hearts, it was only when these words came from Fang Chen's own mouth that they truly dared to believe. Some laughed out loud as if a great burden had been lifted, some wept with joy, and some grieved silently for fallen comrades. The myriad emotions of the world were all displayed within this small hall. Fang Chen was also deeply moved. This victory had come far too hard and was far too arduous. It had exhausted the reserves of generation after generation, sacrificed hero after hero, and burned away one lofty ideal after another. If the Great War were to come again, would the Middle Land still be able to emerge victorious? Fang Chen felt that it would still triumph. With so many people pressing forward without regard for their lives, the Middle Land's victory seemed to have many strokes of luck, but in truth every step was inevitable. Fang Chen took a deep breath and said with a cadenced voice, "The departed have passed on. We the living should carry their hopes and leave well into the future. The Middle Land lies in ruins and awaits restoration. Our mountains and rivers urgently need to be rebuilt. Everyone, please rally yourselves." He brought out the heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the northern heavenly realm obtained from Yan Wangxiao, and also took out the nascent soul cultivation resources hanged for the small divine ring. All were top-tier resources never before seen in the Middle Land. Fang Chen proclaimed loudly, 1 portion each. I hope it will be of help to you. Everyone looked closely, and all showed expressions of astonishment. So many nascent soul resources placed in the Middle Land could be considered a heaven-sent opportunity. Even when divided up, it would be enough for early nascent soul to break through to mid-nascent soul and mid to late nascent soul. In a few months, the average cultivation of the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion reaching late nascent soul would not be a dream. Fang Chen then brought out a man-sized secret chamber covered in ancient wondrous runes, and said furthermore, those who break through to the 8th layer of nascent soul may enter this chamber to perfect their own Tao, which can increase the chance of regaining sanity after descending into madness. Fairy Yunxiang's beautiful eyes shimmered with unusual splendor. She was the 7 Orifice Demon Emperor, and it was precisely the time for her to seek her own Tao. This secret chamber could not have come at a better time. Bai Luo was also full of joy. She was the 8 Orifice Demon Emperor and already possessed her own Tao. However, she always felt it was not yet perfected, far from the level required to awaken at deity transformation. With this secret chamber, perhaps she could follow Fang Chen's path, skipping from 8 orifices straight to 9, directly reaching the deity transformation realm. But breaking through to the 9 orifice Demon Emperor was yet another threshold. Fang Chen himself had only entered the 9 orifices with the help of the Enlightenment Nail. Fang Chen continued, apart from this. He opened his palm to reveal 7 or 8 Enlightenment Nails lying casually there. Those who break through to the 8th orifice, nascent soul, can come to me to receive an Enlightenment Nail. Bai Luo's eyes widened in shock as she exclaimed, ah, even Enlightenment Nails are available. From nascent soul resources to perfecting the Tao intent to Enlightenment Nails, this was practically a one-stop service to deity transformation. One couldn't say a pig could achieve deity transformation, but those with not too mediocre talent all had a chance to charge into the deity transformation realm. The members of the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion could scarcely believe their ears upon hearing this. Gu Zinner's large, limpid eyes widened as she said in delight, me too. I have a chance at deity transformation. Great, I've long decided on my Tao. She looked down at her chest, her eyes filled with bright expectations. Fang Chen looked over upon hearing this and said seriously, better change your Tao, that Tao feels a bit unreliable. As everyone knew, Gu Zinner had fussed over getting bigger for an unknown length of time. Had there ever been the slightest effect? Walking a Tao of enlargement, did she want to get stuck in madness and never wake up? Gu Zinner's face flushed red, and she stamped her feet in embarrassment and anger. I insist. Everyone burst into laughter. Liang Feiyan laughed heartily. Junior Sister Gu, better pick something more practical. That Tao of yours is even harder than Venerable Xinghuo's flawless Tao. Gu Zinner glared at him angrily and snorted, what are you laughing at? Have you even taken a body to possess? You lonely wandering ghost. Liang Feiyan was suddenly at a loss for words, only then realizing he was still in a spirit form. The smile on his face instantly froze. Everyone started laughing again. As expected, laughter never vanishes, it just moves. The Heavenly Mystery Pavilion crowd was excited, while the fire worship sect members near by were so envious their eyes nearly popped out. An elder anxiously urged, Sect Master, quickly take our disciples and leave, or they'll all quit the fire worship sect and join the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion. The fire worship sect master stared blankly and muttered, forget the disciples, even I want to join the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion. A one-stop deity transformation service who could resist. Fang Chen shifted the topic and added, outer sect martial artists who meet the conditions may also come to me to receive an enlightenment nail. Priority will be determined by the degree of sacrifice each sect made in taking Grand Province. Furthermore, taking Grand Province and Primordial Chaos Province share top priority, followed by Great Wilderness Province, Alchemy Province, and Divine Weapon Province, with the remaining provinces further behind. No matter how many enlightenment nails there were, they wouldn't be enough for everyone, so priorities had to be set. Upon hearing this, no one voiced any objection. Primordial Chaos Province had sunk their entire province in this battle. Their disciples deserved special consideration. Great Wilderness Province, Alchemy Province, and Divine Weapon Province had rushed to aid taking Grand Province. They too should be rewarded. After fulfilling their needs, the surplus could be distributed to other provinces. Fang Chen gently patted Liu Ruxu's hand and said warmly, Ruxu, you will oversee the distribution of resources. Though her cultivation wasn't the highest, the title of Fang Chen's wife was enough to preside over the overall situation. Liu Ruxu was very willing to share Fang Chen's burdens and softly replied, if you have matters to attend to, go ahead. Yunsheng, Kingxian, you two come help as well. With the three women taking over the tasks, Fang Chen felt completely at ease. When his gaze swept over Xia Zheoj, his heart stirred slightly and he said, Zheoj, come with me. Xia Zheoj was slightly surprised, but still responded respectfully, yes, martial uncle. In a secluded garden. Xia Zheoj gazed at the deserted surroundings, her heart fluttering slightly. She secretly wondered, why has martial uncle asked me to meet him here? Fang Chen said nothing more and directly took out the crystal necklace he had obtained from Yanwang Xiao. The necklace was inlaid with 9 holy crystals, strung together by a snow-white thin cord. It was a top-grade defensive spiritual artifact. With a single glance, Xia Zheoj froze on the spot, the sacred blessing necklace. A trace of confusion flickered in her eyes. Wasn't this a unique sacred relic of the Angel clan? Where had martial uncle obtained it? Well, let's set that aside for now. But the sacred blessing necklace had been personally blessed by the Archangel who governed the law of love, symbolizing fulfilled love and unwavering fidelity between partners. It was often a proposal token given by male angels to the female angels they loved. It was equivalent to a love token exchanged between human men and women. Why had martial uncle suddenly brought out the sacred blessing necklace? What was he planning? Could it be that he intended to give it to her? Xia Zheoj felt her heart pounding wildly, thump, thump, like a startled fawn dashing about in panic. Fang Chen noticed her odd expression but thought nothing of it and chuckled. You recognize it, it's yours. Yeah. A thunderclap exploded in her mind, and Xia Zheoj was utterly stunned, her pretty face flushed bright red at a visible speed. Martial uncle, was he proposing to her? Her mind went completely blank for an instant, losing all ability to think. Fang Chen looked down at the necklace in his hand, utterly perplexed. Was there something wrong with it? Why was Zheoj making that expression? Suddenly, Fang Chen keenly detected a hint of something strange. Did the Angel clan lack defensive means? Not at all. With that mysterious golden feather protecting them, why would they need a top-grade defensive spiritual artifact? Wouldn't it be completely superfluous for him to specially craft a defensive artifact? Filled with confusion, he looked up and asked Zheoj, what is the sacred blessing necklace used for? Xia Zheoj snapped back to her senses, her eyes evading nervously, her heart still racing with endless thumping. She was just about to explain. But then she was jolted by a sudden realization. If she told the truth, wouldn't that be a blatant admission to martial uncle that she knew far too much about the secrets of the Angel clan? In that case, her identity as an angel might be instantly exposed. Thus, she forcibly swallowed the words that had reached her lips, changing her tune to a guilty cover. I don't know. I only happened to see a picture of this necklace in a book. Was that so? Fang Chen frowned, feeling that Zheoj wasn't telling the truth. But in the end, it wasn't important. As for the necklace's specific purpose, he would let Zheoj discover it herself gradually. It's yours. Oh. Xia Zheoj stood rooted to the spot, at a loss, for a moment not knowing whether she should reach out to take it or not. This was a marriage proposal. She wasn't mentally prepared at all. You don't want it. Seeing her resistant look, Fang Chen couldn't help but feel a bit speechless. If not, I'll put it away. Seeing that Fang Chen really was about to put the necklace away, Xia Zheoj's heart struggled fiercely. Finally, gently biting her silver teeth, her red lips parted slightly. I'll take it. Fang Chen casually tossed the necklace over, puzzled. Didn't you always happily accept things I gave you before? Why are you being so hesitant this time? Xia Zheoj carefully reached out both hands to catch the necklace, her snow-white cheeks instantly turning rosy and burning hot. She silently reproached herself. Zheoj, oh Zheoj, before I told you not to accept martial uncle's things, but you wouldn't listen. Now look what's happened. By accepting this and that, you've ended up accepting a marriage proposal necklace. See what you're going to do now. While her heart was in utter turmoil, Fang Chen's voice sounded again. Why aren't you putting it on? Put it on, right now. You, she stammered, wanting to explain the necklace's significance, but afraid of exposing her identity. Fang Chen wore a strange expression. He truly couldn't understand Xia Zheoj today. Had he ever seen her act so coy before? He simply stood up and said, "Let me put it on you."
Oh.
Ziakeoj was so frightened she retreated repeatedly, hurriedly waving her hands. Wait a moment, Martial Uncle. I'm not ready yet. Let me calm down first. Fang Chen was completely baffled. Why did he suddenly feel an illusion, as if he had confessed his feelings and been rejected? Right at that moment, a subtle spatial fluctuation suddenly came from the direction of the underground palace. Could it be that Yu Mingzhu and the others had returned? Fang Chen collected his thoughts and said, "Keoj, I need to go out for a while. Notify everyone for me." Ziakeoj nodded absent-mindedly. By the time she finally came back to her senses, Fang Chen's figure had long vanished from sight. She looked down, holding the sacred blessing necklace, the blush on her cheeks gradually spreading to dye her snow-white jade neck crimson. Heavens, I actually accepted Martial Uncle's proposal, necklace. If one day in the future, Martial Uncle learns the true meaning of this necklace, how could I ever have the face to see him again? Above the underground palace, Fang Chen's figure flashed as he teleported over, just in time to run head on into Yu Mingzhu, Venerable Zhenyan, and the others rushing out. Not only that, Hongxiu, Zhongwuya, Shura King of Bright Night, Venerable Zinmo, Bodhisattva Pingshan, Shu Baksu, and the Ice, via Demon Lord, had also all rushed over together. Fang Chen frowned and asked, "Why have you all come as well?" Hongxiu's gaze calmly fixed on Fang Chen, as she stated flatly, "They intend to accompany you to the heavenly remnant city. As for me, I came to ask you a question. You, what have you done to Elvige you this time?" As she spoke, she raised a slender jade finger and slowly pointed to her own smooth forehead. Fang Chen was first taken aback, then furrowed his brows in recollection before remembering, in a moment of joy earlier, he had given Elvige a light kiss on the forehead. But could Hongxiu actually sense such a minute action? Without changing expression or heartbeat, he fobbed it off. How would I know? I'm not her shadow. Am I supposed to watch her every second? Hongxiu shot Fang Chen a fierce glare and said coldly, "Then I'll just think of it as being licked by a dog." You? Fang Chen secretly clenched his fists. This damn woman was truly impossible to fool in the slightest. He had to change the subject and asked, "Will you also accompany me to Heavenly Remnant City?" Hongxiu refused bluntly, "I'm not going. Merely some ordinary half. Giants aren't worth my assistance. Furthermore, going to slay half giants means becoming completely irreconcilable with sage compassion. He might still fear you as beings of the Central Plains, but it's entirely different for me. If I go, he will certainly kill me to establish his authority." Fang Chen nodded and said solemnly, "Very well. Then what are your plans? The sky-piercing black pillar is about to collapse. If you want to return to the heavenly realm, you must hurry." In his heart, he was extremely grateful to Hongxiu. Their initial agreement was merely for Hongxiu to help delay the Black Sun King. Yet in the end, she had personally participated in nearly the entire war. The benefit to the Central Plains was simply too immense. Hongxiu said indifferently, "I will return to the heavenly realm right now. Farewell." Fang Chen hurriedly said, "Wait, let me send you off with some yin kai vegetables to take back." Although these yin kai vegetables were a bit shabby to present, they were one of the few things he had that Hongxiu could actually use. "No need." Hongxiu shook her head, then vanished on the spot in a flash, without the slightest hesitation. Fang Chen silently watched the direction she disappeared, standing in a daze for a long time before sighing deeply. "Thank you, Fairy Hongxiu." As his words fell, he abruptly turned around to face the crowd before him, his eyes filled with gravity. "Everyone, the risks of going to the heavenly remnant city, Hongxiu has just made them clear. This journey of ours is to uproot Sage Compassion's foundation. He will inevitably harbor murderous intent. If you accompany me, it is highly likely you will fall on the spot. Even if today passes safely, there's no guarantee that Sage Compassion won't deal with you covertly in the future." Everyone understood that Sage Compassion might still hold a trace of mercy toward the ancient giants. But toward the people of the Central Plains, he would be absolutely ruthless and merciless. Just from the fact that he erased the spiritual intelligence of the soul-witnessing female venerable of the Heavenly Abyss 7 cities and handed her over like a toy to a half, GONT of the Dharma manifestation realm to defile, one can see his nature clearly. His heart holds not a shred of pity for the living beings of the Central Plains, only the merit of those half-giants. Whoever dares to touch it shall be destroyed. The Heart Demon Venerable's face rippled with irrepressible, baleful aura. How much longer must we tolerate them? They have devoured the people of the Heavenly Abyss 7 cities. until both men and gods seethe with shared rage. With the final battle imminent, they still dared to stab us in the back, helping the Giant King's main force cross the battlefield, causing such catastrophic destruction. These treacherous beasts who feed from our hand and bite it, even if it costs me my life, I will slaughter them. The rims of his eyes reddened faintly. It was plain to see, the death of the unfettered old man had deeply shaken him. A little, known Great Venerable had been cruelly done to death by those half-giants just like that. They truly deserve to be hacked to pieces. HMPH, the most damnable one, is that old wretch, Merciful Heart. The Crimson Demon Grandmaster clasped his hands behind his back and snorted coldly. The reason the several sages have repeatedly tolerated the half-giants is for the greater good to placate the Merciful Heart sage, so that he would focus on helping deal with the primordial giants. But what was the outcome? Has that old wretch ever earnestly battled the primordial giants? Shu Buxu, his face full of bewilderment, asked, "Senior, what do you mean by that?" The Crimson Demon Grandmaster sneered, "You still cannot see it. Logically speaking, the Great Libationer and the several sages all possess Fang Chen's law wine, which can restore their power of law on the spot. In battle against the Giant Emperor and the 10 sins of the Central Plains, they ought to have gradually gained the upper hand as time passed. Yet, until the great battle ended, both sides remained evenly matched. Does that make sense? There is only one explanation. One of the sages secretly muddied the waters and shirked his duty, causing the pressure on the other sages to multiply, which is why they could neither seize a decisive advantage. In my view, among the contemporary sages, only this old wretch clings to life in cowardice. The others have to force him before he dares to step onto the battlefield. Barring any surprises, he is the one dragging down his comrades from the shadows. What? Upon learning the truth behind the sage's great battle, flames of fury instantly surged in Fang Chen's eyes. That damnable old dog. Had he only exerted himself fully, the battle at the sage level would have been decided long ago. The war would have long since ceased, and so many people would not have been sacrificed in vain. He fiercely clenched his fist, veins bulging on the back of his hand, and issued a resolute command. "Those who do not fear death, wait for me at the teleportation array." Fang Chen tossed down a sentence. "I'll go and be right back." With a flicker of his form, he shot out of the underground palace. Sure enough, the group did not have to wait long by the underground palace's teleportation array before he returned, riding a white tiger. But he was not alone. Beside him followed a fire worship sect disciple with utterly plain features. It was none other than Lin Zhenyu. Fang Chen's eyes concealed a dark, murderous intent. On this trip to the heavenly remnant city, he would not only slaughter that pack of beasts, there was another matter to attend to. Lin Zhenyu, flattered and overwhelmed, hurriedly cupped his fists toward the crowd. Greetings to all venerable seniors. Fang Chen reined in the odd gleam in his eyes and instructed, "Zhenyu, stay close to me. I'll show you a bit of the wider world." Lin Zhenyu's heart was anxious, yet outwardly he wore a look of pure delight as he repeatedly answered, "Many thanks for your patronage, senior." Fang Chen swept his gaze over the crowd. Seeing that none of them feared death, he offered no further dissuasion. He grasped Yu Mingju's small hand and said in a deep voice, "Let's go. Avenge our old friend, the unfettered old man." The group leaped onto the teleportation array, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the Qinshan Observatory. The moment they steadied themselves, Bai Xin rushed over. She still wore a suit of silver soft armor, her black hair coiled behind her head, with 2 wisps of hair falling beside her ears. Seeing Fang Chen, a faint ripple stirred in her otherwise expressionless eyes as she asked quietly, "Where are you going?" Fang Chen's face was grave. "Gixu Prefecture." Bai Xin shook her head and said, "You cannot go. The prefecture-level teleportation array on the Gixu Prefecture side has already been destroyed." Fang Chen's expression shifted slightly. He gave a cold snort. It seems those half-giants know their doom has come, so they destroyed the teleportation array leading to heavenly remnant city. It was likely not only the array from Taking Grand Prefecture to Gixu Prefecture that had been wrecked. Probably no prefecture can now reach Gixu Prefecture directly. The bright knight Asura King's brows knotted tightly. He said venomously, "Those cunning beasts, what do we do now? Without a prefecture-level teleportation array, we can't possibly reach Gixu Prefecture." The entire group immediately fell into a quandary. But Fang Chen let out a cold laugh. "They think destroying the teleportation array will let them rest easy, dream on." As he spoke, he produced a map. It was precisely the complete map of the southern celestial realm that the first great tower Lord of Fang Chen had given him earlier. He turned his gaze to Yu Mingju and asked Mingju, where is the heaven, connecting Black Pillar of Gixu Prefecture located? Yu Mingju answered without hesitation, right near the heavenly abyss 7 cities. What are you going to do? Fang Chen unfolded the southern celestial realm map, searched carefully for a moment, and finally locked onto the sky directly above the heavenly abyss 7 cities in the southern celestial realm. He chuckled softly and said, "Tell me, if we descend from the sky upon that heaven, connecting Black Pillar, do you think they'll be exceptionally surprised?"
Liar.
Only then did the crowd understand Fang Chen's idea. He actually intended to cross the celestial realm and storm into the heavenly remnant city. For a moment, everyone was stunned by this wildly imaginative notion. But upon further thought, the plan was indeed very feasible. Right now, the southern celestial realm was in a weakened state and sparsely traversed, so there was no worry about being discovered. As long as they moved fast enough and descended upon the heavenly remnant city before the heaven, connecting Black Pillar disintegrated, there would be no problem. Let's go, we'll also head up to the celestial realm to pluck a few gains. After agreeing on the plan, the group immediately rushed to the heaven, connecting Black Pillar at the fire worship sect. The White Tiger, a great demon at the 5 decays of heaven and man, bore the group on its back and charged straight up along the heaven, connecting Black Pillar. In barely a single hour, they had arrived atop the celestial realm. Fang Chen cast his gaze wide. The southern celestial realm still brimmed with rich spiritual energy, its mountains and rivers magnificent, and 9 suns still hung overhead, just as he was surveying the surroundings. Without any warning, a feather brimming with the power of merit drifted down from the sky and landed gently upon him. Everyone's eyes went wide simultaneously. The Crimson Demon Grandmaster said in astonishment, "Merit. The celestial realm actually bestows merit upon you. Has this old woman's eyes gone blurry?" The Ice Fire Demon Lord gaped as well. "Senior, you are not mistaken. It is indeed merit, and a very sizable portion at that. In this cataclysm for the Central Plains, I doubt many could have earned so much merit." The True Word Venerable and the others stared at Fang Chen with equal bewilderment. This sudden descent of merit had completely baffled everyone. For the Central Plains to bestow merit upon Fang Chen was nothing strange. But for the celestial realm to bestow merit, was that not overturning the very heavens? Fang Chen himself was equally at a loss. He had never done a single good deed in the celestial realm. Surely merit would not fall upon him no matter who else it landed on. He watched as that strand of merit, which he could not personally receive, ultimately fell into the little Killen's body, and could only say blankly, "Don't look at me. I don't understand what's going on either." The group exchanged wide-eyed stares, frozen on the spot. After a long while, Fang Chen finally suppressed the unease in his heart and said, "Forget about this merit for now. Let's hurry on our way. The heaven connecting Black Pillar won't hold out for much longer." Not daring to delay, he took out the map to determine their bearings and immediately directed the White Tiger to race off. Just as they had speculated, the various parts of the southern celestial realm were bleak and desolate, with hardly any primordial giants in sight. After traveling for half an hour and crossing a vast tribal region, they finally encountered a small giant tribe. All that remained inside were elderly giants and young giants no more than 7 or 8 zhang tall. Sensing the arrival of Fang Chen's group, those aged giants and young giants alike grabbed their spiked clubs and hurled them with ferocious force. The Heart Demon Venerable's tone was ice cold. Even the old, the weak, women and children, and still so savage. Shubuxu, who had spent a considerable time in the celestial realm, narrowed his eyes and explained, "The giant race is a nation of warriors. There is no such thing as old, weak, women, and children among them. All of them are the world's most ferocious hunters. Given the chance, they will devour you." A few ripples flickered in the True Word Venerable's gaze. She finally understood the significance of Fang Chen's counterattack into the celestial realm. If these young giants are not annihilated and are given enough time to multiply, 1,000 years from now, they will still bring calamity to the Central Plains. Everything Fang Chen did was to forge peace for generations to come. Fang Chen gazed at the wolf, tooth clubs hurtling from the sky, his eyes devoid of mercy. Grasping the purple lightning divine sword, he released 1,000, Zhang's sword aura through the air, cleaving the entire tribe and the giants within cleanly at the waist. The tribe, bustling moments before, was reduced to deathly silence like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Expressionless, Fang Chen sheathed his sword and calmly uttered 4 words, "Continue the journey." A slight chill ran through everyone's hearts. Fang Chen's demeanor toward giants versus his own people was of two polar extremes. To his own, he was like a gentle spring breeze. To giants, he was a reincarnated Asura, slaughtering them without mercy. Along the path that followed, they encountered over a dozen such small tribes, each one identical to the last. Whether old or young, the giants ferociously attacked them. The outcome was self-evident. All were annihilated utterly within the purple sword aura. 2 Shichen later, they finally glimpsed the heaven, connecting black pillar leading to Giksu Prefecture, far in the distance. Though the pillar of light flickered unsteadily on the verge of collapse, it still functioned. Everyone's expressions relaxed. They had made it just in time. Had the black pillar completely collapsed, their group would have been trapped in the heavenly realm. But just as everyone prepared to rush over, a faint ethereal voice drifted over. No one fights, no one snatches. Let's all live in harmony and prosper. Hello. Fang Chen's eyes bulged wide. Wasn't that Wang Chung, Xiao's classic scamming slogan? He thought he had misheard. Wang Chung Xiao had survived so long in the heavenly realm and still wasn't dead. Not only alive, but still bouncing around and scamming people. How can there be a voice of our human race? The red demon Great Exalted asked in astonishment. In the minds of True Word, Venerable, and the others, the image of that unlucky fellow Fang Chen had abandoned in the heavenly realm surfaced. Wang Chung Xiao. This guy had been utterly screwed over by Fang Chen, who had even stolen his name to constantly antagonize the ancient giants. One couldn't help but imagine the kind of hellish days he must have endured in the heavenly realm. For a moment, everyone looked at Fang Chen with strange expressions. Coughed, Fang Chen smiled sheepishly and explained, Senior Red Demon, that is my life, and Death Brother Wang Chung Xiao. I've been searching for him everywhere. Never expected he'd come to the heavenly realm. The Red Demon Great Exalted gave a slight nod, but the next sentence that drifted over from the distance made her expression turn odd as well. Rest assured, I, Fang Chen, am a man of my word. A spit becomes a nail. If I deceive you, may lightning strike me down and die a wretched death. PFFT. True Word, Venerable, and Moon Pearl, knowing the inside story, immediately covered their mouths and snickered. These two even had identical scamming routines. When doing good deeds, they'd leave their own name. When doing bad deeds, they'd impersonate the other's name. Fang Chen's face darkened. Wait, when he had impersonated Wang Chung Xiao, he had never sworn such a venomous oath. Everyone, wait here a moment. I'll go meet this old friend. With that, he gripped the divine wood and simultaneously cast the selfless dust, cleansing art stealthily creeping over. Ahead, a massive fissure revealed itself. Deep within, the spatial barriers of the heavenly realm were faintly visible. This scar was left when the 8 grand wine sacrifices charged into the heavenly realm and battled the 9 suns' giant emperor. Through that fissure, an ancient, snow-white tower buried deep underground came into view. Wang Chung Xiao and 2 dark Asura kings stood before the ancient tower. At that moment, a divine halo had manifested behind Wang Chung Xiao's head, signaling he had broken through to the deity transformation realm. Upon that divine halo, a clear flame mark blazed. Just like Fang Chen, he had also reached the first celestial decline stage. As for the 2 dark Asura kings beside him, they were far from simple. Both were 5 crown Asura kings. Their faces aged and weathered, their eyes sinister and ruthless, clearly not kind-hearted beings. The 3 were gazing intently at that ancient tower. To be precise, it was a bell tower. Only the rooftop remained, slanting and embedded in the earth. Beneath the ruined roof stood a snow-white bell, 10 feet tall.